Hi, Tove here at Klevgren, Stockholm. I'm here to talk to you about Modley and how I use it to achieve an atmospheric delay, a vintage delay, and then I'm gonna do something experimental. Modley is a multi-effects delay effect, and the idea behind it comes from me. I love delay, and I've always looked for a simple way of putting effects inside the feedback loop, making the effects more intense over time. So that's what we did. In the corner you see the index of this video, so if you want to skip ahead to one of the examples, just jump ahead. Overview. Modley consists of 3 effect racks: pre, loop and post. Each rack has 4 slots where effect modules can be inserted. Depending on where the effect is inserted, it will process the audio in different stages of the chain. To change position of an insert, press and drag anywhere on the insert. All inserts can be bypassed using the bypass switch to the top left on each insert. The inserted effects are processed from left to right. In the pre-rack, inserted effects will be processed once before entering the loop rack, where inserted effects will be processed and added more and more depending on the amount of feedback. Lastly, we have the post rack. Here the inserted effects will be processed once, after leaving the loop rack. The parameters for Modley's overall delay are found to the right. You have the sync button that sets the delay time as note values, and the overall delay time. The feedback sets the amount to be rerouted from the loop rack's output to its input. You can freeze the current signal in 2 modes. In the pre-mode, the freezed signal is fed through the loop rack chain again and again. In the post mode, the freezed signal is not processed by the rack chain. Down here you have parameters for mix, depth and frequency of the modulation. And lastly you have limiter threshold and master mix between dry and wet signal. And on top you have the preset library with some basic panning, distorted, rhythmic, vocals, instrument and FX delays. Atmospheric delay. I'll start off with a simple delay. I'll insert the palette panner in the loop rack to get the signal to bounce from left to right. And I'll raise the rate and width. I'll insert a delay in the loop rack. I'll sync it to the host BPM and set the time to dotted 16th notes. What happens is that for each feedback loop there will be more and more delay bounces. And I'll insert a chorus. Okay, now I want the reverb, but I'm not gonna insert it on the post rack. I'm gonna insert it on the pre-rack, so that the reverb signal goes through the loop rack with my other effects. I also want to EQ the signal before the loop rack. Raising the low cut, the low shelf and lowering the gain. And lowering the high cut, the high shelf and raising the gain. I think I'll insert a phaser as well. Raising the depth, center frequency, the number of stages and mix to max. Lastly, I'll add a delay on the post track as well. Raising the low pass, syncing the tempo and raising the feedback and mix. Let's make a vintage delay! First I'll change the delay time. I'll insert a compressor on the pre-rack. I want a fast attack and the most amount of compression. I'll insert the tape saturation on the loop rack, and I'll just lower the gloss parameter for saturation character to about 32%. Now I'll add 2 filters, both a high pass at about 700 Hz and a low pass at about 3.6 kHz. On the post track I'll put a vibrato, and I want it really quick to get that flutter effect that's common on tape. To make it even more wobbly, I'll raise the frequency of the modulation and the mix to about 30%. experimental delay. I'll start off with a delay time at 330 milliseconds. I'll put a flanger in the pre-rack. I'll put some tape saturation in the loop rack. I'll add a tremolo. And a panner. And a compressor. A pitch shifter. And a chorus. And I'll change some of the modulation. That just sounds weird, but maybe you can find some use for it somewhere. That's it for me, folks. Leave your comments below and see you next time.